Hello, and welcome to the third edition of XPS News. For this edition, we're delighted to have Margaret Snowdon, Chair of the Pension Scams Industry Group, join us to talk about the very real impact that the current environment is having on pension scheme members. So, Margaret, welcome. The current circumstances are unprecedented, and it's one that is indeed having a very human impact. Our way of life has changed, understandably resulting in people feeling very unsecure about their financial future. What do you feel are the greatest risks that pension scheme members face in the current climate?
Hello, and thanks, Wayne. Clearly, with my sort of focus at the moment, I'm looking at pension scams, and we see an increase in pension scams. So there are a couple of risks with the way things are right now. And as you said, when people are anxious about money, they're actually more vulnerable to make knee-jerk decisions, and they'll opt out of pension schemes, reduce or stop pension contributions, or transfer out to try and get access to money early. And the second risk I see is that administrators are firefighting a lot at the moment, and the risk is they'll just settle transfers without checking them, just to get the work flowing through and off their work pile. So two areas of danger.
That's a key thing for trustees to look at. I mean, and as you say, the scams, it's just a sad fact of life that, some people will try to take advantage of such situations. In your role, have you seen any new types of scam emerge in the current climate?
No, not so much new scams as much more of the same. Scams are all the same. They're all trying to persuade people to take their pension savings, put it somewhere else that generally is more in the interest of the scammer than in the interest of the individual. But what we're seeing is more approaching people, trying to persuade them that when they're anxious about finance, that they can do something to help them. And we see every time you go onto Twitter, you go on Facebook, you see adverts there asking people to click here to get loans, to get medical items. So it's no surprise that there's also the same on how to access your pension scheme. So we see contacts by phone, we see them online, we see them in social media, with companies literally fear-mongering and saying things like, there's a deep recession coming, negative interest rates are on the horizon, you're going to lose your pension savings. And the most dangerous of all, I think, is it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to buy now, and that's really scaring people.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to understand that despite the cold calling ban and despite the requirement to be at home, social media is just a substantial avenue for people to try and get in touch with pensions and pension scheme members. So with scams on the rise, as we're seeing with the increased activity, with market volatility and fear, potentially driving decisions within people, should the pensions regulator and the government think about putting a block on transfers completely?
Well, there's quite a bit of noise about that at the moment. It is one option, but the problem is not all transfers are bad. The vast majority of transfers are actually quite good, but stopping them has other ramifications. And one is you're removing a statutory right to a transfer. And I would rather restrict the statutory right than to stop it. But you run the danger of reducing trust in the industry if you suddenly stop people doing something they desperately want to do. And I worry that even by the time they do something like this legally, the horse will already have bolted. So I would say the first thing we need to do is continue to weed out the bad transfers by doing good due diligence, and then delay transfers. So I'd rather have a delay tactic than a stopping. And for example, schemes could review the transfer basis, because you arguably transfer values are too generous and therefore might put the scheme at risk. And there's also possibly too big a demand on cash flow. So we might want to slow down transfers for that reason. But if transfers and transfer requests increase dramatically so that we can't cope, then I would say stopping may well become a realistic option.
Yeah, and certainly with the wider support the government's offering, often trustees do debate whether or not to stop transfers or not versus whether members need the money, but there are wider support mechanisms available for people. Is there any additional guidance that the Pension Scams Industry Group will be putting out? Are you working with the pensions regulator to look at new guidance in this area?
Absolutely. We are. We said when we published the last version of the code that what we would try to do is make it more user-friendly. And we're actively working with the pensions regulator at the moment to produce a short version of the code that's easy to digest and easy to get the key points across. So we'll be looking to get that out sometime later in the year, and that's a huge step forward. We're also working with the regulator on an accreditation scheme, so that people in schemes who do actually follow the code can get some sort of accreditation that says they are. I like to think that's something that would discourage scammers from actually approaching members of that scheme. The regulator is also supportive of our intelligence sharing initiative, which we're actively working on right now, so that the industry can share intelligence on risky ventures. And there's also an all-party parliamentary group setting up to help the victims of scams. But importantly, I think we've asked for a specific amendment to the Pension Schemes Bill that will help trustees to deal with scam transfers.
So, Margaret, with all of that in mind, what actions do you think it's important for trustees and employers to take to help here?
Well, in tough times, it's very easy to think that pensions are less important, but they are. They continue to be very important. Trustees really need to keep focusing on due diligence for transfers, and what we've recommended before is that you talk to members to either to reassure them or to help them to understand the risks that they're facing with the transfer they've asked for. But I would just finally say that if we stop transfers, which is an option, we'll then need to be cautious that scammers don't then focus on returns, and then we have to open that up again.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Where if we're making decisions on behalf of members to stop one sort of activity, another might just arise, which is equally harmful to people. So engagement is absolutely key to look after members. So, Margaret, thank you very much for those insightful comments at a time when I'm sure a lot of people are worried about their pension scheme members, at a time when the members themselves are quite worried, and communication is key. Really appreciate that. So thank you all for watching. And just to sign off, please do look out for further versions of XPS News. And we will also be holding a seminar with David Fair's webinar on April the 22nd. So please do sign up for that. We will talk more about, emerging issues in the current environment, and also what that means for regular ongoing business as usual within pension schemes, such as new funding rules. So thank you very much.